Ready to move to the next level in your product career? I'm Shobhit from Intentional Product Manager. Join me as we discuss ways to help you stand out in your job search and your career so you can have more impact and make more money. Everyone, welcome to the Intentional Product Manager podcast. So with me is Saurabh Shrivastava, who's a seasoned product manager with a focus on defining long-term vision, highly differentiated products, awesome user experiences, establishing partnerships with other companies, big and small. And he's currently a group PM at Snap. He's working on many state-of-art AI ML platforms. So ML use cases like Gen AI, which everyone's talking about, ads ranking, content tracking, user growth initiatives. And today we'll talk a lot about AI and machine learning-based product management. So first of all, Saurabh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Shobhit. Thank you very much for having me here.
Saurabh, do you mind giving us a bird's eye view of your career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. So in my journey, currently I'm working as you mentioned, as a product manager in Snap. And specifically in that, I'm working as a product manager for their machine learning platform. So this is a platform that machine learning engineers in Snap use to create the state-of-the-art models, which are used by our monetization teams to show the most relevant ads to you, or by our content team to show the most relevant stories or spotlight to you, or maybe our growth team, for example, to show you the most recommended, best friend recommendation that you're most likely to chat with. So that's what I'm working on currently. But in my journey, I would say I've been very fortunate to work on different aspects of product management. So, and when I say that, I mean, I have worked as a product manager for very consumer facing products. I've worked as the product manager for very enterprise facing products. And I've worked as product manager for the platforms, the AI ML platforms that I'm working on for the last 3-4 years. So I'll maybe quickly dive into one of the examples of each for people to understand what I'm referring to. So I started my career as a consumer-facing product manager. This is when I was in Microsoft and I was working for their search engine Bing. And I worked on various scenarios on Bing. So I think my first product management role was when I was working on Bing Finance vertical. So if you're searching for, say, Microsoft stock, and the experience that lights up is something I was working on. We used to work on toolbars back then, or Edge browser's toolbar and things like that. So that's where I started on the consumer-facing role. And fast forward to several years, again in Microsoft with the Bing team, but this time in the Bing APIs team, where I worked as the enterprise product manager. We were working on different Bing APIs to power searches across the industry. So many people are actually not aware, but if you go to yahoo.com or duckduckgo.com, those are all results powered by Bing. So I was the PM for that team. And in my last role lately within Meta and Snap, I've been working as the platform PM. And this is where I'm working on, and both the teams actually have been working on their AI platforms.
So I'm going to ask you a lot about AI product management, but first, you mentioned you've done these three, almost like people consider three verticals of product management: B2C, B2B, and then platform. When you were transitioning across these roles, did you have any sort of resistance that, hey, you're like a B2C person, now you're not B2B or anything like that? And how did you overcome and position yourself for success in the next role?
Yeah. So I think for B2C to B2B, it was not a very big problem for me because I moved within Bing, within Microsoft. So it was not that challenging. I think the thing that helped me the most over there was my career track record. So I had a decent career track record working as a B2C PM. So people who were hiring me had access to my history of performance and everything. So that helped me a lot. And then from from B2B to ML platform, that is where people see a lot of friction when they try to move, because there's a different requirements from a consumer-facing product manager to, say, the enterprise-facing product manager, or in fact, compared to platforms, because platforms are usually more horizontal. The projects are long-term compared to B2C, which is different. But I think a few things helped me a lot in this kind of a movement when I did from Microsoft to Meta. I would say number one, at least for the interview, uh, I had very strong recommendation coming from one of my previous managers who had worked with me in the past. So that helped me at least got a foot in the door for the interview. And for the interviews, I had done a lot of preparation. Like overall, like personally, I'm like very interested in learning new things. So I had always been investing my energy in learning about AI ML, working hard in that space. I've done a bunch of courses on Coursera and other places. So that gave me all the basic understanding of it. And I think the interviews, I nailed it pretty well. So I knew the two most important interviews, like the technical rounds, and were something I feel I did a very good job at it. And I think that helped me get in.
And so that helped you transition to AI/ML platforms, and then Snap is also AI/ML
Yes.
platform.
And then it started opening up more opportunities for me. And overall, whenever I've been like carving out my career, I have been making sure that I don't get pigeonholed into one thing. So even when I was in Microsoft and within Bing, I had tiptoed a little bit on the AI side or the platformish sides a little bit, and I used stories from that time to explain like how I have like learned in this space and contributed in this space. So, for example, for a brief period of time in Bing, I worked on their relevance team of when I was like just transitioning to AI. So that helped me a lot. I worked on their ML platform team as well for Bing, so that helped me a lot. Those stories helped me justify why I have seen this experience and I would like it and I can contribute towards it.
So was this move, like now AI/ML platform PM, was that like you planned it out? You were like, no, that's what I want to be? Or it's sort of like happenstance or both? Just eager to hear about like what piqued your interest into this.
So, in terms of like how I moved to AI ML, it starts with when I was in Microsoft and working on the consumer side B2C projects back then. And I was working in Bing. One thought that struck to me is that if I'm working in Bing and if I do not know relevance, there's no point working in this team. Like you're working on one of the search engines of the company and one of the popular ones. And if you do not know how it works in the core, I won't be justifying my time here. So I consciously moved within from like user-facing experience to the relevance team in Bing, and that helped me. That's was my first step in this direction. And then after working in Microsoft for a while, I wanted to move to Facebook because Facebook, I wanted to get an opportunity to work on very technical AI geeky stuff out there. For example, I really loved my role in Microsoft, my last role in Microsoft, which was a wholesome product manager experience, and we can talk more about it. But I wanted to do more of AIML stuff. Like I'm sure like many of the PMs which are reaching out to you want to get into this field. So I was in the same boat back then that I want to get in this role a little bit more. And Facebook was and still is kind of leading in this space. So I wanted to be at the right place there.
One more question on that. You said you had to be in the relevance team. Why so?
Yes. So primary reason was like, if I'm in Bing and I've spent like 5 years and do not understand how the core of the product works, I felt I'm not justifying my presence here. So that's why. So it was not for career ambition. It's just for learning. It felt right to know the core of a product that I'm giving like 5 years to, or maybe more.
Got it. No, totally. That makes complete sense. Let's talk about, you mentioned how you got into Meta, like anything else that helped you differentiate yourself from other candidates other than what you've already mentioned here?
I think at different points of time where I've done a career move, there have been different factors that have played a role in getting me that role. I can talk about when I moved to a team in Microsoft when I moved from India to US, and then we can quickly talk about like Microsoft to Facebook as well. So when I wanted to move from India to US, I think few things that helped me, that move in the relevance team helped me because it opened up more opportunities in the headquarters here for me, in being there were a lot of openings on the relevance role. Second thing, I actually researched about the team I was applying for, and I found out like what their problems are right now. And I wrote a small, like a two-pager kind of a thing of what that team should be doing. And I shared that with the hiring manager. I think that impressed him. So he was on a business trip to India after I shared this doc with him. When he came, he met with me, and we spent like an hour discussing that doc. So I think this whole thing that he saw that I have the drive and I have the technical competency. So he sort of started batting for me internally, like, hey, he's a great guy and everything. So that I think helped me a lot. And he's a great guy. I'm still good friends with him right now. So that was something which helped me a lot moving from India to US. And from within like Microsoft to Facebook, let me think what helped me the most. I think the most important thing that helped me was when I was moving from Microsoft to Facebook was a very thorough preparation for the interview. So first, it's a two-step process, right? First, getting an interview call, and second, how do you do in the interview? So to get the interview call, you have to have your resume right, and you have to have the right recommendation. So to get the right resume, I had done the right projects, but I wanted to show that I'm very interested in the space, and I basically wanted to learn that space. So I spent a lot of time doing a bunch of courses. So if you see on my LinkedIn, I've done like Coursera and a few more things out there just before I started applying for this role, because I wanted to be super comfortable in talking in the language that the team is talking in. So that helped. Of course, the recommendation helped from the hiring manager. So that was for the interview. And during the interview, I think it's very important to research about the company you're applying for and understand what the interview structure is, what the pattern is. Like Facebook at that time had Ninja rounds and all those, like there are 4 or 5 categories. I'd done a very thorough preparation of like how to nail those interviews. So in some of the interviews, like when I went in, I knew this is what they were going to ask. I gave them this, here it is. And so
like, product sense and those categories, but there are other specific ML interviews as well.
So I started my career in Facebook as a TPM. So it was more technical rounds back then. So they had a round in which they give you a technical problem to solve. So I, like all these courses, for example, I'm talking about I had done, that helped me a lot in like answering those questions. And second one, they also ask about like, tell me about some project that you've worked on in the past. Like you have to be able to start from like what the product is and go as deep as you can. And technically, do not just be at the technical layer, like you have to bridge the whole gap. And I think that helped. So I think these are the 2 interviews in which I did decently well. And I personally feel like interviews are a little weighted towards 1 or 2 interviews. So once you nail down the most important ones, it becomes easier to get the other ones too.
Let's talk more about, you mentioned you did a bunch of courses. Which ones helped, and like what really helped? Was it like you putting on your resume that you've done that course, or like something else that was really valuable from that?
So what usually helps when you do these courses, if you get the opportunity to talk to the team, because once you talk to the team, they understand that you know the space. The interview structure in different companies is very different. Like if you go to say Google, for example, it doesn't matter what if you've done any courses or not, because their interview structure is very different. And if you've not gotten the audience with the hiring manager, you do not even get that opportunity. So it helps only when you get that opportunity to talk to the hiring manager. Then you can talk in a language and express that this is why I'm valuable in this space. That is one. And secondly, I feel sometimes in some of the interviews, where like depending on the company, these help. So in case of Facebook, the technical round was very much pivoted on machine learning, which I was applying for. I think one of the questions they asked me was, how would you build a classifier for some scenario? And then how do you scale it and all those things? So since I knew the space well, I could talk about all the core details like loss function, this and that. So that helped me a lot. So I was able to explain them the basic concept, then take it up the notch by talking about how do you scale it to the Facebook level and all those things. But if you do not know the basic fundamentals which you get from these courses, you will just be talking the paper bare. And that's what I've seen when I've been taking interviews, that people learn certain like keywords when you talk about, say, scale or distributed systems, and they just throw punch in there, but they do not have the fundamental concepts clear. I think the courses usually help you get that confidence. It won't directly help, but it indirectly helps you a lot.
What I'm hearing is like courses were a way of you really understanding the space, what's going on, what's the technical terms behind, and now you're a lot more conversational in your discussions rather than throwing certain terms. Saurabh, now that you're like been on the other side and you've been an AI platform product manager for a while, so what's changing now? What's changing in product management careers with AI being rapidly adopted?
I think one thing to understand for everyone is that like we talked about three verticals, right? Like B2C, B2B, and platform. Within platform, there's AI platform. Likewise, there's one more way of dissecting this thing. Like AI product managers can be divided into two major categories. One is applied ML product manager, and second is AI platform product manager. So applied ML are the ones who use machine learning to show you the best, most relevant content, like TikTok, Reels. Everyone is using applied ML there. And then this platform AML product manager are the one which builds this platform that these engineers can use to do this thing. So when people are applying for this these product manager roles, they should be very conscious which one they are more interested in, and they're applying to the right one or not. And for example, applied ML is closer to the customer. AIML is closer to the tech. ML platform is closer to the tech. So people have to be careful about that.
Let's talk about both. Like, how does somebody decide which one they should go for?
It depends what you have in mind. Like if you want to be closer to the customer, it makes sense to be the applied ML product manager. Because, for example, I'll take an example from, say, Snap. If you want to show the most relevant spotlight or most relevant friend request to the user, you should be in the applied ML org. If you want to understand the tech space very well, because if all these applied ML PMs are using a platform, for you to contribute and add value, you have to understand this whole space. If you want to build that competency, be in the ML platform space.
And then let me ask a variation of this. How should they look at it in terms of what's most suited to their experience? Are there certain characteristics that would make them more suitable for an applied AI role versus an AI platform role?
I think one thing is from the resume itself, like if you've worked on something in the past and you have a rough idea, that will help you. Second is, one good thing is look at the companies out there and see the type of role they are offering. For example, if you want to be the ML platform guy, like Snowflakes and like Databricks are the kinds of company. Do you see yourself in working companies like this? If you want to be the applied ML guy, you might be working in the ads org of Facebook or say TikTok or Reels. Do you want to be there? So these are some like very high level thumb rules that can help you get a directional idea. Do I want to go in this direction or this direction?
Next question is, okay, you've been through this transition. If somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm a strong PM, I've hardly ever had any exposure to AI. What should I do to get in this space? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so one thing I would recommend for folks is that people depends like at what stage of your career you are in. If you're early in your stage, people are more open to give you that opportunity, give that break, even if you have not worked on AI. If you are like a senior PM or a principal PM, the chances are lower. But if you still want to break into the space, the best way is within your company, find opportunities where you can do more some of this AI ML stuff. Just get familiar with this space. It helps you first yourself in understanding, do you enjoy this space? Because the space is very different than if you have been a UX heavy PM. Like you will not be deciding like, hey, should this be blue color or this be green color? Should I move 5 pixels here or not? You'll be working more closely with engineers here. So the space is very different. So do you enjoy this space or not? So that is one opportunity for you to understand. And it is also an opportunity for others to see that you can add value. And within your company, people are usually more open to give you those opportunities. This is what I did, at least I did in Microsoft. Just find out your sister team that you've been working with, figure out how you can move there. So that helps a lot. It's all about getting that break, and after that, it is a snowball effect. You can start learning more, you can start contributing more, you beef up your resume with that. But that one break helps, and usually people closer to you are ready to give you that a break.
When you are hiring PMs at Snap or at Meta and they're applying for AI/ML roles, like what are maybe some of the common failure patterns that you see that they didn't do a good job and so they didn't land the role?
In the AI/ML space, I think most common pattern I've seen is that people are not aware about the space. They they have not spent time in the technical domain, or they do not know how can they solve the customer problem. And those are the big red flags for me. Many times generic PMs come and assume that they will be able to contribute in this space, but it's a little more challenging because the lingo is different. The people you are building products for are different, and you have to somehow find value. Like how do you add value in the overall system? For example, I'll take this thing, right? Like you are building products for engineers with the help of your engineers. Both know more than you, right? In the technical space. How do you add value? So you have to bring some niche that I bring this on the table that both of these guys might not be able to do it. And this is very tough when you're playing on their turf, because this is fully technical domain. So you do all sorts of like competitive study or things like that, but you have to figure out how would you add value here.
I love that point of view. I used to work in dev tools. And so my engineers were building products for other engineers and went through the same challenges. So then let's look a little forward. Like, do you see any major changes in like product management, the job market over the next year? And like, how would you tell people how to navigate those?
I think in the last 1.5 years, the job market has been very brutal. I'm sure you must have seen as well. But I have seen that it's opening up a little bit now. We have seen opening coming up, and like we have a bunch of openings in Snap now. We have seen openings coming up in other companies too. So it started opening up. I definitely see there is a bias towards applied ML kind of a PM roles right now. There are many companies hiring for those roles, or at least the platformish roles. I'm noticing that there are good things coming up in that space.
Anything that PMs should do to take advantage of the market opening up, and especially more hiring in AI/ML specific roles?
I think while switching companies, it's very important to understand the company you're applying for, and especially their interview patterns. They're very different. For example, Amazon versus say Google or Facebook. Amazon is always like looking in the rear view mirror, like tell me about your past where you have shown competence on these leadership principles. That's how they judge people. So it's more about the STAR framework and like telling your stories the right way. Facebook and Google tend to be more on the creative side. Hey, can you do this? I have this business problem for you. How would you solve this thing? So understand that and do a lot of mocks and practice for those, because interview process is very noisy. Those people are looking for very specific thing. If you say it in those 45 minutes, it works, otherwise you're out.
Awesome. Saurabh, thank you so much for taking time, for being in this podcast and sharing your expertise on product management and especially AI/ML.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Shobhit. Thank you for having me here. I've been following your posts on LinkedIn. They've been very insightful and very engaging as well. So I love it.
I appreciate it. Last thing I always ask, like, how do people find you? Should they connect with you on LinkedIn, or do you write somewhere?
I think LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. Thank you very much, Shobhit, for Bye-bye.
Hey, be sure to check out our website at intentionalproductmanager.com to see how you can level up in your career.